What's up everyone, it's Vivi and welcome back to another Sly Cooper theory video. Now, you've read the title, how can Sly Cooper go back home? Now, I've already talked about this in the past. The first theory was about Sly writing in a Thievius Raccoonus. Most likely, the message he would write in the book would appear in the present. If you haven't seen that video, maybe you'd like to check it out. Now, I've thought of a second idea, one which sounds way too obvious in my opinion. I'm hoping the team has actually thought of this, because come on now, the gang has a time machine, right? It requires a certain object of a specific era to time travel, correct? Why not simply go back to before Sly faced Paradox? You simply find an object which would take you to that time period, right? How more obvious can it get? Now, of course, it's probably going to take them a couple of tries. They're going to travel back to the same year they are currently in. Just a very short travel through time. But will it guarantee them a trip to before Sly faced Paradox? It's going to take a couple of tries, some failures and stuff, but this idea, it's not that crazy. You have a time machine, simply go back, try as best as you can. If this is not part of the story, they will have to come up with a very good excuse. What, the machine doesn't work that way? A short trip through time, it doesn't work? What? Explain that to me. Okay, but wait, if they save Sly before he faces Paradox, then that means the secret ending pretty much means nothing at all. It's just going to get deleted. The thing is, they can still get away with that very easily. Bentley, Murray, and Carmelita, they go back to Sly before he faces Paradox. He is going to face him, but they warned Sly on how to do it. They warned the gang in the past to stop Sly from doing whatever he's doing, because why? He would get sucked into a portal. And Bentley, guys, he explains everything in detail. That's the key, remember that. Okay, the gang in the past, they listen to the gang from the future. The gang from the future, they'll simply fade away because they're changing the past. They're interacting with their past selves, and because of that, that's gonna cause them to no longer go back in the past. Don't we all just love time travel? It's awesome, it's fantastic, right? Anyways, Sly beats Paradox, but he's saved, he doesn't get sucked into that portal. Sly is safe, hooray! However, the team will slowly realize that some weird stuff is going on. Number one, the book is starting to completely fade. We're not talking about letters from pages, it's the whole book. And two, looking at this from a fan's perspective, it's pretty undermining for the series, right? People were expecting to play as Sly in Egypt. An episode was planned. How can they still implement that? By willingly have Sly go to ancient Egypt. Hear me out. The book starts to fade away, right? It's as if it was no longer supposed to exist. Bentley thinks back at what his future self had told him, how Sly got sucked into that portal originally. He theorizes that Sly met his ancestor who started the book, Sly Common, and he believes Sly, who originally entered that portal, influenced his ancestor in starting that book. His hypothesis? Sly was destined to be there, inspired the creation of the book. By preventing Sly from ending up in ancient Egypt, they stopped the creation of the book. So with that happening, the team will realize that Sly has to go back. Now what will the team decide on doing? Will they A, try and recreate that portal and try and set it to 1350 BC? But why would they abandon him? Because perhaps Bentley feared that their presence would cause interference. By doing that, the gang sees that the book is starting to restore itself. Once that happens, they go back and save Sly. Of course, after he influences his ancestor. If they do it before, what's the point? It might undo everything, the book restoring itself. But the thing is, how precise is Bentley's time machine? Can he really set coordinates that precise? Option B, which is more likely in my opinion, the team goes to ancient Egypt together, but what happens is this. Something happens to the time machine, and all of the characters do end up in the same timeline, but their locations are different. They all end up in this separate area. So when that happens, cue secret ending we had in Sly Cooper 4. Sly waking up in front of that pyramid. But how can we explain the blimp? The blimp was always there. It crashed and got sucked into that portal, but Sly didn't. Now for the other characters who are lost somewhere, they have their own small episodes. They realize, well, they find pieces of the time machine. Once they find everything, luckily they stumble upon each other. And once that's done, we get the usual style gameplay from the other games. We find this hub room and everyone could have their own missions eventually. But isn't this too risky, having everyone help Sly influence his ancestor? Well, think of of this, in Sly Cooper 4, the gang interacted with the ancestors, and look, it didn't really affect the timeline, so it could work. But if they stay too long in the past, if they take too long to find the pieces of the time machine, they might encounter Clockwork, which that is very dangerous. If they change Clockwork's motives in the past, it's going to highly impact the future. Who knows, maybe the team might meet a younger Slyton Common, and during that time, Clockwork wasn't a bad guy. And that's gonna be quite a huge shock for the team, because they're so used to Clockwork being evil. Hey, didn't they meet an older Sly Cooper? There you go. But to be quite honest with you guys, I think the idea of writing in the book is so much more interesting. By doing so, we could have like these alternating episodes, Ancient Egypt and the present. But come on, how can the team avoid such an obvious way of finding Sly, knowing that Bentley has a time machine? They can just go back before facing Paradox. Am I missing something here? What kind of excuse can stop them from doing so? So that is the question I will leave you guys with. So as usual, leave your answers in the comment section below, and as always, I hope you enjoyed this Sly Cooper theory video. I've been Vivi, and thanks for watching.